Well, hello there, fellow geeks and geekettes, and welcome to yet another review video. Now, do you want to see a female character, a modern, contemporary female character done right? Well, you're in for a treat. Well, actually, we are not really talking about a modern or contemporary character. We are talking about a character that was born in the 1980s when Frank Miller wrote his The Dark Knight Returns, and we are talking about Carrie Kelly, the Robin from the Dark Knight Returns comic book that has redefined Batman forever. Now, of course, Frank Miller being a genius and a fantastic writer with a brilliant mind, there is no wonder that he is and has been always has been able to come up with great stories, original, grasping stories, and interesting characters, which is what I'm always talking about. If you make your story interesting and your characters as well, you will have the attention of the readers, and you will have the positive attention of the readers. Now, that is Frank Miller, right? Some people don't like his more contemporary, his more recent stuff. I would not like to go into depth, but I think that it has a lot to do with the editorial and things like that. As a matter of fact, the comic that he wrote about the terrorists, I don't really remember the name of the comic, but I will put the name in the description down below. He originally wanted to make it a Batman comic book, but DC Comics really didn't want to let him do it, so he just erased the ears from his cowl, painted or let the colorist paint the character red, and made it his own character. But I'm talking about Carrie Kelly, who, of course, is the Robin. Was the Robin in the kind of Elseworlds, Dark Knight universe, Frank Miller universe, Robin from the 1980s, who now, like a couple of years ago, appeared again in the third installment of the Dark Knight saga, we could say, by Frank Miller. Now, the first one, as I said, was The Dark Knight Returns, then there was The Dark Knight Strikes Again, which many people don't like. And then there was this, Dark Knight 3, The Master Race. Now, from what I could read and understand and hear about this, it wasn't entirely Frank Miller's work. He, of course, officially co-wrote it with Brian Azzarello. But from he said, we know that it was mainly written by Brian Azzarello, and Frank Miller was just a consultant, and that he mainly worked on those additional stories at the end of each issue, which he also drew. So this comic was written, or there were 9 issues of this series. So it was written by Brian Azzarello with some consulting with Frank Miller. It was drawn by Andy Kubert, who, by the way, done this cover as well, which is glorious. And it was inked by Klaus Janson, and like a million other people did variant covers. And Frank Miller both wrote and drew the additional stories at the end of each issue, which were inked then by Klaus Janson again. Now, we also have to take into consideration the fact that there was, of course, undoubtedly, a lot of influence and involvement from the part of DC Comics, the higher-ups, the editors, and the owners, which means that it basically is a corporate comic book written by a team of people. This being said, I have to admire it, because the result is quite fantastic. All in all, before I get to my original point, all in all, this series is very action-packed. The action is very good. It's the story is interesting. It's original, and the art is great, which I'm going to show you shortly. And the characters are written in the way that you don't cringe. It's not cringy, right? And I'm not going to go into depth. You can read it for yourself or Google it. But I do strongly recommend that you read this, the entire series, because it's quite good. Much better than Dark Knight Strikes Again, definitely. Who I want to talk about is Carrie Kelly, who in this becomes Batgirl, as you can see here. Right? So she's no longer Robin, she's Batgirl. Batman is even older than he was in the two previous parts of the saga, and well, he can't be as active as he was before. Now, today's female characters are very often, well, let's say gods. Even if they are superheroes, they are more of gods. They are they can't be hurt, they can't be injured. They are always high kicking with a spin. They are kicking asses of all the villains and all the characters, mainly of the male characters, and they are basically flawless, right? There are no flaws about the characters, about the female characters, right? So just we will leave out the fact that if a hero is flawless, it's a boring hero, it's not a proper hero. You can't sympathize with the hero, you can't identify with the hero. Even the old Greek philosophers talked about catharsis, which is when the character suffers and the audience watches the character suffer. Through his or her suffering, you will reach catharsis, which is like this sort of cleansing of the mind, of your soul, and you will reach a blissful state. Simply said, a character needs to suffer, and a character or a hero needs to go through dangers and through bad things in order, well, for the character or for the hero to be a proper hero, right? So he or she can achieve the victory in the end, and the victory can be well deserved. Now, as you can see here, Carrie Kelly is a badass female protagonist. Strong, badass female protagonist, as you can see here. So she's fighting one of the Kryptonians from the Kandor, the city in the bottle, right? So she's driving the Batmobile, or the tank Batmobile from, the Dark Knight Returns, which is quite badass. And she encounters this villain, this Kryptonian, right, who just smashes a head of a common citizen of Gotham City, right? Boo. Now, she was trained by Batman. She needs to be badass, right? But that doesn't mean she is a young woman. So this means that she can't be as good as Batman yet, right? Even though Batman many a time in this book says that, oh, she will be better than I ever was, and I have a lot to learn from her, which they had to put things like that in it. But if you look, aside from it, you will see that, yes, she is fighting the villain, but she is relying on her mind as well, not only on her body. In a contemporary comic book from 2020, it would just take one kick and that earthly woman, that human, would destroy the Kryptonian with one kick, which is unrealistic. But here, she was very famous in The Dark Knight Returns for her slingshot weapon, which she uses here, right? So she takes her slingshot, she takes a little piece of kryptonite, which she of course got from Batman, from Bruce Wayne, which is very clever. Well, if you can fight a Kryptonian, or if you have to fight a Kryptonian, and you have a piece of kryptonite on hand. What will I use to fight the Kryptonian? So she shoots the piece of kryptonite. And look at the expression on her face here. She is actually, so she shoots, yeah, and she's actually afraid that she will miss. She is not sure about herself. She is not over self-confident as many of the female protagonists in contemporary comic books. She is a human being. She is a human. She is somebody who can be identified with, who the readers can feel sorry for, feel happy for. It's really a human character because she acts very human here. She is afraid. Look at that. But luckily, she's a very good shot, and she was trained by Batman, so she doesn't miss, right? She hits the Kryptonian in the eye, and his face melts, and that's badass and awesome. And then we've got all the great action scenes, but I'm not here to talk about that today. And here is the additional story, right? That was all written and drawn by Frank Miller, and it revolves around the fight between Carrie Kelly and Lara. I think her name is Lara, I hope now. Superman's daughter, who is, of course, in this version of the Batman universe, half Kryptonian, half Amazon, because her mother is Wonder Woman, her father is Superman. Forget about Lois Lane now. And, right, so she, of course, fights the daughter of Superman for a bit. She can't win, right? She has no kryptonite anymore, so no way she can win here. Again, she's afraid, right? And who wouldn't be? Her head is about to get squished. But luckily, and now spoilers by the way, she is saved by Wonder Woman, who is going to stop her daughter because her daughter, she wants to join the bad Kryptonians for a bit, and then of course she's redeemed and loves her mother and her father again. But in this instant they fight. Wonder Woman and the daughter of Superman and Wonder Woman, they fight. But Carrie Kelly only observes. She just watches as a human being, these two godly characters fighting with each other. And in the end, of course, spoilers, Wonder Woman lets her daughter go, because who would kill her daughter, right? But what I'm talking about is Carrie Kelly, who is a very human character, a badass character, a very strong and very skilled fighter and a strategist, because she was taught and trained by Batman. So no wonder about that, right? But still, the writers and the owners of DC and the editors were I believe this came out in 2016, if I'm not wrong, something like that. They were able to keep the character human and quite believable. Of course, we have to take into consideration the fact that this is a comic book, but still, a believable character that you can identify with, that you can feel really sorry for, happy for, and so on and so forth. No unrealistic goddess character that really can do everything. It's definitely no Rey from the Disney Star Wars films, right? So, dear creators, if you want to make characters right, and now it doesn't matter if the character is female, if it's a male, if it's la-di-da-di-da, if it's a pink dolphin, make it like this. Make it believable. It's simple as that. So I do strongly recommend you read the entire series. I've only wanted to talk about this particular scenes, or those particular scenes, so I chose issue 6, or book 6, as it is said here. But I do strongly recommend you get either the singles or the collected edition and read it. It's definitely very good. But of course, The Dark Knight Returns is a classic, so it's nowhere as good as The Dark Knight Returns. But, that's Dark Knight Returns is an evergreen of good comics, right? It's a canon. But if we are to talk about modern comics, more or less modern, this is it. The Dark Knight Return or the Dark Knight 3 Master Race. It's very good. I do recommend it if you want to read about believable characters. My throat is getting dry. Just let me sip of my energy drink. So yeah, I do recommend this. And that would be all from me, my friends. What do you think? Have you read the Dark Knight 3 Master Race? What do you think about it? What do you think about the characters? Do you agree with me or not? Why? Well, write your opinions in the comments down below. And of course, do not forget to dislike this video if you don't like it, or like this video if you like it, and subscribe to this unimportant channel of an unimportant geek talking about unimportant things. Oh, and yes, I have forgotten to mention it, like in my 10 of my previous videos. You can follow me on Instagram now, where I post pictures of my stuff, like collectibles and comics, and I promote my videos there. So I will also put a link to my Instagram account in the description down below. Well, that will be all from me, my friends. See you soon, and bye.